go someplace that maybe even you're most afraid of, but consider that you're not changing your entire life. You're going out for a taste. You're going to the geographic buffet of life, if you will.
Welcome to Living Not So Fabulously. We're chasing financial freedom looks like a passport full of stamps. Today's guest, Ken Krell, is a globe-trotting entrepreneur and YouTuber, inspiring travelers to turn freedom into a financial plan.
With more than 15 years living as a digital nomad, he's proof that you can build wealth, wander the world, and look good while you're doing it. Welcome to the show, Ken.
That was a great intro. Thanks, guys. I especially like to look
Thanks
good
so
part.
much.
So.
Appreciate
We're not
it.
being
So
not at
before
all.
we dive into the meat of the interview, where are you calling in from today? You're all over the world these days.
I am actually kind of couch surfing at a friend's house in Sydney.
Very cool. We love Sydney.
Yeah.
I had a really good time there several years ago.
It's the best place in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's dive into your story a little bit. You became a digital nomad like 15 years ago, before that was even really a thing in the common lexicon. How did you discover this? How did you get into it? How did this come about?
It's interesting. I left the U.S. in 2009. I've been a real estate developer. I've been training real estate entrepreneurs and business entrepreneurs as a professional speaker for 40 plus years, and had been a victim of the global financial crisis. That's what the Australians call it. They call it the GFC. Sounds so much better than my life got which was the right. But anyway, I had a giant project in Costa Rica. It went down. I ended up going bankrupt. Got sued by my investors. I mean, it was just one giant cluster. And my best friend was like, you know what? This is madness that you're living in. Why don't you just go to Thailand for a month and just chill? You can still run your online business from there, but get out of Dodge. And so I did. And after about a month in Bangkok and around, I was like, this is awesome. I'm living on nothing. I had no money anyway, because I mean, when you go bankrupt, you have no money. And it was like the best lifestyle ever with the best food ever. And I thought, there's something to this. And that was really how it all began. I got back to the States, packed up what I had, because I'd lost the house, car was taken, all this stuff was going on. Went back to Thailand, was traveling at like $20 a day. It was incredible. And I was hooked.
Wow. So we understand that a little bit. You must have had some income coming in, because you couldn't just go over to Thailand with no money at all. Clearly, you had $20 a day.
I became money when I sold my body. That was what I did. Yeah. No. It is a big business over there. Now it's called OnlyFans. No, I mean, I did have an online business as well. I was doing some coaching and some training and so on. It wasn't the biggest business in the world, but it was enough to cover, the daily operations. And, and mind you, I was still struggling. There was one day in Cambodia, I remember talking to this one gentleman who'd been traveling for like 27 years. And, I had like $20 left to my name. That was all I had that day. It was kind of freaky. It was all I had in the world. The good news is I was living at $7 a day, which included breakfast, Wi-Fi, and a private bath. So, it was okay. The next day money came, things work out that way. But it was really that tight for me at that point. So being in Asia where it's so inexpensive was a real blessing. It's something you're not going to do in Tokyo or New York or London.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was that like in that moment when you didn't have more than $20 in your pocket? Like, what was the anxiety, and what made you think that you could actually stay there?
Well, I knew I had other things that were on the way. I mean, I had people that would do to pay me. How when you have cash flow, someday it's like the bank account's empty. The next day, like $17,000 shows up. It was kind of that moment. So you still have to have faith. But when someone's supposed to pay you on Monday and then, oh, they're delayed, or the mother got sick, or what other BS you're going to hear, and then it comes in and then it doesn't clear, all that drama hits. So I was kind of in that state with that low point, But the one thing I learned, and talking to this gentleman, because he was like, you're really worried about money. I said, oh, no, I'm not. He said, bullshit, of course you are. But he said to me, has it always worked out? And I said, well, yeah, it has. He said, then why are you worrying? So it was a lot of energetics that I had to kind of process. And still, everybody that's a businessman still, or businesswoman, business human, still deals with cash flow issues, cash flow or cash flaw. And there are times when it's light and you just pray that wire transfer is going to show up when it does, or the ACH will clear in time for the bill to come through, and sometimes it doesn't. So it was a lot of learning to cope and learning to have faith. Honest to God, it had to be that way, and it's still a lesson, along the way, because we're always being hit with that. And I had to keep remembering this metaphor that I've been teaching for years. It's like when you go whitewater rafting, what's the most fun part? Is it the rapids or is it the quiet part? Well, it's the rapids, right? Well, that's what this madness
Absolutely.
is in our lives. Things are all messed up. That's the rapids. We hate it when we're in it, theoretically, right? But that's the part that's the most fun if we position our mindset to that. So I kind of had to he said to myself, Ken, wait, this is the fun part. You'll tell this as a story. It's your good origin story. Just remember that right now, So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's how it went.
I do appreciate what you just said about this idea. If you've done it before, it's likely that you'll be able to do it again. Our mentor, when we were getting ready to start and go out on our own and leave our corporate jobs behind, he basically said something very similar. You haven't failed yet. What makes you think you're going to fail? You will be able to keep doing this. And we have been able to keep doing this, even though we've had plenty of Class 5 whitewater rapids, as you mentioned.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is we're always gonna have that, and what that does, though, for us as we become more vintage, as I was told I'm vintage, is that we have more value because we have far more experience than the younger folks. I mean, I've got a friend I'm staying with right now, one of the roommates here, he's doing OnlyFans, and that's his business. Good for him. I guess they do like daddies. I could probably do that now, but the thing is that he's asking me questions about how can he run his business life and live the same way, and that's the beauty of this. The no matter how inexperienced you as a viewer is feeling, the fact is that you're one chapter ahead in the book of life than somebody else, and
Yeah.
that's all we need to
Love that.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
So
You know, I do have a question for you. You're talking about this person or other people doing this. With more and more employers right now enacting kind of this return to office, so fewer people have the freedom to be out in the world and maybe living the nomadic life. What trends are you seeing that digital nomads are doing today to earn money besides OnlyFans that other folks may be able to do?
yeah, I mean, the first thing my first response in my head was the minute a boss tells me to come back to the office, I say bye, because I see it as being, being kind of location slavery, if you will. And the good thing about COVID, I would say, is that it did teach people that they don't have to be a slave to the office and they can be productive elsewhere, which I learned a long time ago. I mean, I work at libraries, I work at coffee shops. There are tons of business opportunities that you can have where you can sell your wisdom, sell services and so on that allow you to do it from any part of the world. In fact, we just created some software we'll be releasing shortly, probably by the time people actually see this episode, that will allow you to have a report of what business opportunities would be good for you, like the top 12 business potentials and the top 3 cities that you'd be best served to live in, to live that life based on your personality style. And we built that because so many people, a lot of our subscribers, most of them are not nomads. They're wannabes. They're living vicariously through every Tuesday's newsletter, which is great. But my intention is to not have you hear about what I'm doing and be a voyeur. It's to let's go travel someplace. Let's meet up in Cambodia or Myanmar or in Uruguay, because there's so much of the world to explore. That's really the gift I want to give to our subscribers.
Wonderful. I love that you're creating a tool to help people with that. For those who are just starting out, what additional tools would you maybe recommend they look into to maybe figure out what they should do and where they might want to go?
It's a great question. The first thing, and not to be self-serving as I am, is, hello, go to pridenomad.com and pick up a subscription to the newsletter. It's free, because what is so important, I think the biggest thing is mindset. It's to have the confidence to know that it is really okay to get on an airplane and go to a place you've never been before. And the biggest mindset piece of it is go for a couple weeks. Go someplace that maybe even you're most afraid of, but consider that you're not changing your entire life. You're going out for a taste. You're going to the geographic buffet of life, if you will, and experience that and see if you can do something while you're there. Yes, you'll play tourist for a while. I was in Colombia recently for a few weeks. Never been. Great place to go, by the way. It's cool and it's inexpensive. People are wonderful, and had the best burger of my life in this little mountain town. I mean, honest to God, best burger of life. And how unexpected was that, right? But those things come because you get out of town. So the biggest thing is the mindset, is to recognize that the world is not at all unfriendly. I was on a podcast the other day and someone asked me, where have you felt unsafe? And I was like, nowhere. I remember years ago when I was walking down the street in Boston, after being out at the 1270 bar, this goes back decades, and I was nervous. It was nighttime. It was Boston, big city. But funny enough, Medellin, Colombia, statistically has less crime than Houston, Texas. So we need to recognize that the world is not necessarily the crazy ass place that the media leads us to believe. I was in Bangkok during the coup. It was, for me, and remember, this is their issue, not our issue. And if you stay, as long as you stay out of their political situation, you're still a guest. And it was, I wouldn't say it was a party, but it pretty much was. I had better food. I had more street vendors on the street because streets were closed. And it was just fine if you stay out of their stuff. So I felt the world, again, it's all mindset. My belief is that pretty much everybody is a good person, that I'm going to have a good time wherever I go, that I'm going to have a good meal wherever I go, as opposed to, oh, this is going to suck. Because if you say this is going to suck, guess what? It's going to suck. So the biggest tool is making sure that this is adapting and recognizing that even if things are going lousy, and I'll give you a quick story on that, it's going to change. I got to Colombia. It turned out I showed up during Pride weekend, and they had the big Pride parade, and they do it the same day all over the country, which is fascinating. Anyway, long story short, I'm there with someone, and my iPhone gets pickpocketed. Oh shit. I'm shooting all the video for my YouTube channel and all this and all that, and I get pickpocketed. Now that can happen anywhere in the world, okay? But it happened to me, and nothing ever bad happens to me, and it devastated me. And as I'm walking back to the hotel to report it stolen and so on and so forth, I meet up with a guy walking to me who I was on the immigration line with. It was like an hour-long line to get through immigration coming to the country. And he's from Miami. I bonded with him and his wife. And he's like, what happened? How can I help? And I was saved. Now,
Nice.
and I was saved emotionally because I had a backup phone. I was travel with a little iPhone 12 for my teleprompter. So I had a backup phone. And he walked back to the hotel. He and his wife checked in on me, and I didn't feel alone anymore. So instead of my thinking, oh shit, I'm leaving, I'm going back, to my mom's, because I was just with my mom for a few weeks. I stayed, and the trip got so much better after that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, one moment, Ken. We'll be right back after this quick break. What really resonated with me in the first half of Ken's interview is how he turned a setback into a setup. I mean, it's really amazing how he kind of laid the groundwork for what digital nomading became today.
Yeah, and I would say also pay particular attention to the first half here, to exactly how much money Ken was spending at the beginning of his nomad experience, and then ask yourself, what's holding you back?
Welcome back to Living Not So Fabulously. We're back talking with Ken Krell, the OG of digital nomading. You're providing us a ton of wonderful advice. For someone who's eyeing the nomad life, what would you recommend as sort of the freedom fund? Whether it's based on a monthly expense or other debt rules to help make sure they're prepared before they take that leap.
Yeah, 3 months. I would say have at least 3 months in the bank someplace set aside. And what's 3 months? Get a sense of where you're going to be and what your expense level is going to be. And that varies, right? I mean, if you're going to be spending time in Southeast Asia, it's very inexpensive. You can, I think I mentioned earlier, $7 a night in Cambodia. And that was about 15 years ago. So maybe it's $8 now, but you can eat on the street in Bangkok for literally pennies a day. And so if you set your mind that I'll be, say, in Southeast Asia or even in Colombia, for example, which is also inexpensive, not as inexpensive as Thailand, 3 months, I think, is a good breathing backup plan. And yes, I've done it with 3 days. I don't recommend that. But yeah, 3 months will give you some sanity, I think.
Are there any single expense categories that maybe newbies underestimate that you find common? Maybe the
Good
alcohol
question.
fund?
That's actually a really good point. I rarely ever drink. So for me, I save a shit ton of money on alcohol. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. So I have a lot more disposable income than those that have all those other addictions. Now chocolate, that's another conversation altogether. But I tell people my drug of choice is C, chocolate. But no, it's true. And so Angelina's in Paris, Riverino for hot chocolate here in Sydney. Good stuff. So yeah, but the thing to bear in mind is that if you leave your past life behind, meaning you give up your house, your apartment, or whatever, so you're out of those expenses. When you're traveling digitally, like I've been, I don't have car insurance because I don't have a car. I don't have a car payment. I don't have car maintenance. I don't have any of that crap. So how much is that a month that I'm saving? So that savings can be applied towards maybe more money on my lodging or incidental travel or some other treats that I'm giving myself. When I was in Sydney, I was in Sydney for about 4 years. Now, for the immigration people, I was a tourist. I was visiting. I was not living here, even though I had an apartment, right? And luckily, it was during COVID, so I couldn't leave. Thank you so much. But while I was here, I had a very expensive apartment. I overlooked Hyde Park, which is stunning. I could see the Opera House. I could see Sydney Harbor. It was just incredible. It was also incredibly expensive. But guess what? No insurance, no car, no this, no that. It was great. And even medical insurance, which I didn't have anything in the US, medical insurance here was a fraction of the US coverage. And in fact, you'll find as a nomad that if you're going to get like regular health insurance, if you exclude the United States from it, your insurance drops by easily 50-60%. Easily. Because US is just such a ripoff on medical insurance. Yeah. And I was in
So
Thailand.
how exactly do you exclude one moment, I'm sorry. How exactly do you exclude the US from your health insurance when you're nomading?
It's an option. If you're going to buy health, like nomadic health insurance, there is a with US or non-US coverage. It's like the world including US, the world not including US, honest to God. And the difference is dramatic. So if you're not going to be in the US, as so many more people are not being in the US lately, it's fine. So that's the way I've run it. Then the other side of the coin is, and I don't know necessarily advise this, but you can also self-insure. So when I was in that shit hit the fan moment, long moment, I was in Bangkok. I had no insurance, and zero. But guess what? As long as you're reasonably healthy, I shouldn't say you don't need insurance because that's the dumbest thing probably to ever say, but the medical care in Thailand, for example, is really, really good and really, really affordable. So I self-insured. And every year, I would get a full physical. Check this out. I get a full physical. That's EKG, echocardiogram, I forget the carotid artery check. You name it, they're doing it. Eyes. It was a few $100s at the major hospital. And you get a full report. They treat you like a rock star going from section to section to section with all they do. You spend thousands in the States, a couple $100 in Thailand. And now I have the past like 15 years of annual medical reports to go with, right? So to that end, like, why was I going to spend hundreds upon hundreds of dollars a month for coverage when, the money I save, which is now, probably tens of thousands of dollars, if I need something done, there you are. So
Yeah.
now I want to make sure if you can do, what is important if you're going to do something fun, like you're going to go skiing or whatever else, make sure you have travel insurance to cover those activities. For the love of everything holy, don't go do something that puts you in potential harm's way, like skiing, without coverage. That's just,
I love that.
Colossal dumb. Okay. Now ask another question.
Wonderful advice. I'm curious, especially for those who are starting their nomad life a little bit younger, how do you advise them to invest for their official retirement? How are they doing that abroad necessarily?
I love you for asking me that question, as I found so many people are not even looking at that. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're older. Put money aside, and be an investor. I really want my subscribers to act like investors, because whether you're traveling or not, you're still running a business. And, even if you're selling services, you're still in business. So that's so important. And my disappointment is that so many of my readers don't think that way and don't want to follow that. It's bizarre to me. But everything we do, we need to think about, is this going to build a plan? And I don't think about retirement necessarily, because I don't know that I'll ever retire, but there needs to be some asset base behind us that we can count on. I was on a date last night. Whew. And the gentleman I was talking to, he and his now ex-partner had built a portfolio of all sorts of property. That's what I want people to do. You don't have to do real estate. You can do whatever turns you on, but have something. Some people buy businesses. Great idea. There's tons of things we can do, but it's got to be put aside in a logical way. And I don't care what it is that you do, but there should always be, tithe to yourself 10%. Put it into an account. You'll never notice it. And then if there's an emergency, at least you have something as well. Not that I'm advocating emergencies, but I'm glad you raised that, because people don't think that way.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that's great advice. So last question here. We have about 15 seconds. For somebody who's inspired by this interview, they want to take the leap. What's the first practical step they should take?
PrideNomad.com. Get the newsletter, self-serving, but absolutely true, because it opens up the conversation. And the next thing truly is pick a place and go. Honestly, pick a place and go. You'll figure it out. If you have any sense of resiliency and creativity, you'll figure it out. It'll be okay.
Thank you so much, Ken. We appreciate it.
Love being with you guys.
So I would say that probably my big takeaway, and I would say for everyone else probably too here, is do exactly what Ken said. If this is something that you truly want to do, pick the place you want to go, invest the money, and make it happen.
Yeah, I think finally, remember, there's sort of a vested interest for some people to keep you scared of traveling the world and seeing what's going on in other cities and other countries. So, maybe put yourself outside of your comfort zone, discover the truth for yourself, and see what's going on elsewhere. Thanks for tuning in. If you have a question for us, just email yfpodcast@yahooinc.com.
If you like what you see, scan the QR code to follow Yahoo Finance podcasts and more videos for expert insights and great stories like Ken's, because when you do, you'll get the money, moves, and mindset to thrive anywhere. And until next time, stay fabulous.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.